You're listening to the ADHD Support Talk Radio podcast. ADHD Support Talk is brought to you by addclasses.com. Visit www.addclasses.com and sign up for free webinars and online events today. Hello, welcome back to ADHD Support Talk Radio. I'm your co-host, Lynne Edris, and as a productivity coach, I help overwhelmed professionals reduce procrastination, improve time management, and get more done with less effort so that they have more time, energy, and even money for what they love the most. I am a woman with ADHD myself, so you guys know I've been where you are, and I've come out as I say, the other side, so to speak. So I've gone from living in that constant state of chaos and overwhelm and underperformance we all know far too well to live a life of more success and fulfillment than I once dreamed was possible. And I really do believe every single one of you can share the same success for yourselves, right? However you define success, I believe that you can achieve it. You can learn more about me, what I do, and the programs and services I offer at coachingadvantages.com. And if you'd like to join my next live online productivity workshop, you can simply text the keyword productivity to the number 33777 to find out about the next free event. Well, today I have back with me, together again, Tara McGillicuddy is joining me. Tara is, of course, the founder and host of ADHD Support Talk Radio. So welcome, Tara.
I'm glad to be back. And my name's Tara McGillicuddy, and I am like you said, the founder of ADHD Support Talk Radio. I'm a woman with ADHD myself. Sometimes I forget to mention that when I introduce myself, and that's important. And I've been helping people with ADHD for over 20 years now. And I also help people shift their energy and help lead happier, more productive lives. And you can learn more about me and the services I offer at taramcgillicuddy.com.
Awesome. Well, we were talking right before we jumped on about potential topics that would be of interest. And of course, one that is always an ever kind of recurring topic among my clients and really, honestly, in my own life as well. It's something that I really need to keep an eye on. It's perfectionism. And perfectionism has a lot of different faces. It has a lot of different ways that it shows up. And I think a lot of us don't identify with the word perfectionist or don't think of ourselves as perfectionist because, as I said many, many years ago, how can I be a perfectionist when I'm a hot mess, right? How can I be a perfectionist when I don't follow through or I don't do things, quote, perfectly? But for a lot of us, that's the rub, right? It is that all or nothing thinking. It is that perfectionism that holds us back. And I know, Tara, we've talked about this so many times before. I mean, tell me what you see, what your thoughts are.
Yeah. Well, one of the really interesting things when we were talking about what topics to talk about today, perfectionism, whenever we've done this topic or I've done the topic, you've done the topic over the years, it is one of the most listened to episodes on both iTunes and YouTube. So a lot of people are relating to it. And yeah, I think that's a biggie. A lot of people don't realize at first is that what's getting in the way is perfectionism. And I am a perfectionist. And when I first heard people talking about in the ADHD community, I did not relate to it all. And then I'm like, people were talking about it. It's that black or white, all or nothing thinking. And I know myself when I'm doing a project, when I've let the house go and I have too much stuff, I have to stop and breathe and be like, okay, it's my perfectionism because it's either clean or it's totally not. And when you tackle something, you want it to be perfect. Not even you want it. That's just where your mind goes and it can be hard. So just recognizing that I have perfectionistic tendencies, I'm a perfectionist, whatever term suits you best, can help you break it down. It's like, okay, I can talk myself into just spending 10 minutes working on something, or I can talk myself into having it be 80%, 50%, whatever it is.
Absolutely. And it's tough, right? Because if you don't identify it, you can't address it, right? I always say the problem or the solution has to fit the problem. So if you're not recognizing that your perfectionism or that your all or nothing thinking, black and white thinking, those phrases really are pretty interchangeable, is part of what's getting in your way, then it's really a hard problem to solve because it's really easy to tell yourself things like, I don't have time to clean this, I'm using my quotey fingers, you can't see, the right way, or I don't have time to do this the way I should do it, or I don't have the energy to do this the way I ought to do this, or the right way, or whatever your sort of thing is that you're putting off, or you're avoiding, or you're postponing. Those are indications of perfectionism. Those are indications of black and white thinking, right? I don't have time to clean this house the right way, so I'm not going to do it at all, and I'm going to go do this other thing instead, or I'm going to avoid altogether, or I'm going to let it build up. I don't have the energy to file these papers the right way, or I don't have the energy to figure out the perfect system so that I can file these papers the right way, the right system, the best system. Whenever you hear yourself using words like the right way, the way it should be done, those are indications of black and white thinking. And that was a huge problem for me especially when I was younger, like you brought up like the house thing, right? So cleaning for me is an area where I really had to work on my perfectionism. And I never in a million years would have thought that I was a perfectionistic housekeeper, I guess I would say, because I was constantly in that, let it build, let it build, let it build, avoid it, because I hate it, right? Because it really sucks for me. It's just not something that I enjoy, or that I have a lot of sort of intrinsic motivation to do. And then we'd have company come, or it would get to a point where I couldn't take it anymore. And then I'd finally rely on that external stimulation, whether it was adrenaline of a company, visit, or something else, to really push me to get it done. But that's all about perfectionism. I believed that there was a right way to clean and there was a wrong way to clean. And some of that perfectionism I learned from my mom, I think, but more than anything, that's just the lens that I looked at it through, right? If you didn't do it right, what's the point of doing it? If I didn't get on my hands and knees, and I always go back to like my example of like one of our first houses had ceramic tile in the kitchen, and it was a lot of tile. It went from like the front door to through the hallway to the powder room to the kitchen. I mean, it was a lot of tile. And of course it was white because I was young and I didn't know better. But in my mind, the right way, and really in my mind, the only way to clean tile was on your hands and knees with a scrub brush and a bucket of clean water with a bucket of soapy water and a towel to wipe out the grout as you scrubbed it. So how often do you think I cleaned that tile?
Oh yeah.
And it had to be all done at once, which was like an entire day, or it felt like it was an entire day. Yeah. So with that thinking, I just never did it. I only did it when I couldn't take it anymore, or when somebody was coming.
Yeah. I mean, I had a similar thing growing up. My room was almost never clean, and that was a constant battle between me and my parents. And I'd go up there, I'd spend hours. It would be a lot cleaner than it was, but my mother's, the term she'd use, no, I want it clean the way I like it. So it wasn't just my perfectionism, it was her perfectionism, and no one's perfect. So yeah, that was a big thing. And one thing I've noticed with myself and a lot of people I've worked with is we have more internal perfection.
Yes.
Like, we're not perfectionistic when it comes to other people. We love them the way they are. We accept them the way they are. We're not ones to judge. And that's why, okay, I don't judge other people. I'm very open to just about anything for other people, unless, they don't hurt me, that type of thing. But so I think that's why another reason why I and a lot of other people didn't accept the perfectionism label or identify with perfectionism, because we're not perfectionistic for the most part when it comes to other things, other people. It's more an internal thing about us.
Yes, absolutely. And that's tough. There are a lot of like inconsistencies and sort of contradictions with these things, especially when it comes to ADHD, right? I mean, if you feel like you're a mess, how can you think you are a perfectionist? If you're not, you don't sort of have that hard line with the people around you, maybe your team, maybe, the people who support you, the people you work with, your own family. If you don't have that tendency with them, then it is very sort of confusing, and it is very hard to get a handle on it when you're applying it to yourself. But it really is like, it's something that we learn, whether it's taught to us or we just learn it because we make assumptions about what people expect from us, or whether somebody said outright, you're doing it wrong, do it my way or do it this way. but it's such a universal challenge with ADHD, that black and white thinking, that all or nothing thinking, that it really, it isn't always something that somebody else kind of imposed upon
Yes.
us. But at the same time, like that sort of dichotomy thing again, society reinforces perfection to a degree, right? The rest of
Mm-hmm.
the world, that sort of, whether you want to call them neurotypicals or non-ADHD population, the rest of the world reinforces that sort of high quality stuff, right? That
Yes.
sort of do your best work. I used to leave notes for my kids on the sort of the whiteboard that was part of like what I would call like their launch pad, where they kept their school stuff in the morning. And I used to write different little sayings, and I change them every now and then. And I wrote like, do your best. And that lived there for a little while. And then I was like, yeah, not everything deserves your best.
Mm-hmm.
So how about be your best?
Yes.
And then I was like, yeah, well, not again, everything deserves you to be your best. And then it was try your best. And then I was like, well, yeah, same deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everything, not every situation deserves your best effort, be the you're happy with, or,
Yes.
kind of
Yeah,
shifting that around. It's hard though, because those
it
are like
is.
societal sort of, I don't know, what do you call it? Societal assumptions, societal beliefs
Yep.
that are imposed on us. It's
Yeah.
tough. It's really tough.
And a lot of these societal things are filtered. Like I was
They
just
are.
thinking about Snapchat. I don't use it for the most part, but I have friends who are my age in their 40s who will take pictures on Snapchats with all the filters. And somebody asked me, "Do you like it?" I said, "Yeah, but that's not you." So I think
Right.
we're living in that Snapchat filtered society now where
Right.
we're seeing things through a different lens and it's not realistic. It's perfectionism, but it's not even like realistic perfectionism either.
It
Because you have
is.
like realistic perfectionism where somebody has somebody clean their house. You go to their house and it's always clean, it's spotless. And you talk to them like, oh, yeah, I have a housekeeper or I have someone else do it. So it's not like, they do it
Right.
on their
Or you
own.
should see the upstairs, right?
Yeah,
Is the
yeah,
other,
but
right.
that's realistic. The result is still realistic, but with the
Yes.
Snapchat and all these filters, the result isn't even realistic. So you're like, it's like not realistic perfectionism.
It messes with
It
your
does.
sort of your perception of what real is. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things I think, and this can easily turn into a social media conversation, because I think that's one of the things that is so
Mhm.
harmful about social media. What we see is what people choose to share. And,
Yes.
I always joke around that not too many people are going to actually put their double chins on Facebook.
No, no.
Everybody knows that you look up at the
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
want to
yeah.
look, you want the camera to be looking down a little so you can
Yep.
look up to, make the most flattering. And then the sort of the younger crowd, I'm a little
Mhm.
older than you. I'm in my mid 50s, but that younger crowd knows how to pose.
Yes.
They know their sort of their social media positions for
Mhm.
their pics. And that it's the same with the pictures and the things that you see in the rest of their lives, right?
Yes.
Their homes, their offices, people only let you see what they let you see. You're not seeing it all. And it's more now. And we make this assumption that that's real life and that that's what that person's life is. And then we feel like we fall short. And, it's just this big, ugly sort of cycle that we find ourselves
Yeah.
in.
And going even, talking more about social media, not getting into specific topics because I don't want to push any buttons, but there's a lot of black and white thinking right
Yes.
now when it comes to certain people, certain topics.
Right.
Very few people are meeting somewhere in the middle to discuss it. It's like yes or no, this or that. So that's perfectionistic also.
It
And I don't
is.
think that's something that we realize that affects us, whether or not you buy into it. I mean, I just either don't get into it or I'll try to have people see things in the middle, which isn't working anyways.
No.
But I think that's one thing to realize. We are being bombarded by perfectionistic type situations and energy and ideas and yeah,
Messages.
yeah.
Yeah,
And like
absolutely.
you said, most of it's not real, or I said, and you agree with me for the most part, it's not realistic.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And it's so if you look through your news feed and if you look through on whatever platform you're on at the people that you follow and the people that you follow because you admire them or you aspire to be like them in
Mhm.
some way, you're going to see that their stuff is filtered. I'm going to
Yeah.
be honest. Tara and I are on a video. We do these recordings on video because they just have better energy when we can see each other,
Yeah.
and the recordings end up better or whatever. But I have a desk. I have two desks. I have a desk where I coach and where I work all day long. That's in front of a window, and it's got a better view. And I like the energy of being able to see outside all day, and it helps me focus. But I've got a second desk that I use for like creative stuff and where I do all my video stuff. My office is super small. So if I move my video camera to the other desk, you're going to see my recycling bin. You're going to see the pile, the letter tray where I keep the crap that needs to be shredded. You're going to see like the not camera pretty part of my office. So whenever I do any video, and you guys verify this, when you see I'm being real, right? When you see any webinars or anything I do, it's almost always the same background with the bookcases. That's because that's the longest wall, and I can actually like fit the whole wall in my shot, because again, my office is super small. If I have my camera in any other way, you're going to see my closet, you're going to see a mess, you're going to see whatever. Now it's a functional mess, right? It's a mess that I live with, but it's real, and it's my real life. And in the grand scheme of filtered people, I think, Tara, you and I are much less filtered than a lot of
Yes.
other people are. And I think that's true for a lot of us with ADHD. We tend to be sort of, what you see is what you get. And that's important to me. So I always want to be honest, and I always want to be upfront, but that is my real stuff behind me.
Yeah.
It's just not the messiest part of my real
Well,
stuff
I'll
behind
put
me.
up for a few years. I've been putting up, it's like a pink screen when I do
Right.
videos. It's
Right.
because there's distractions behind me, or I'm
Right.
in bed. I don't want people to see my clutter type of thing.
Right.
But
Right.
one of the big things that people have been selling now that have been coming up on my feed, they've always been around, are the green screens. Because a lot of
Yes.
people use the Zoom backgrounds that are kind of
Right.
cool, but it's not really where they are. And
Right.
part of it that is, their marketing campaign is like, now that you work from home, you can have a professional background, which makes sense. But then that's another thing that's not perfect. I mean, you have people that don't have the real green screens. You can see the lines when they go in Zoom,
Right.
which isn't perfect. But a lot of the other
fine.
people, and one of the big things that they're selling now, which I almost bought, is a circular green screen that actually goes on your chair that,
I've
you
seen
Velcro.
those. Yeah, clips on the head of your chair.
Yeah, we're not seeing, things are so filtered, and sometimes it makes complete sense to filter things, but other times,
and that's okay.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
It's not.
It's not a bad thing, but when you're seeing it, when you're watching it, when you're looking at it, you can't assume that that's all there is to that reality.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the things, I mean, this sort of reminds me, I had a client who wanted help. She was having trouble setting up a bullet journal, and we were kind of getting into, I'm a big proponent. One of the things I do with my clients is like the customizing your systems and your tools to work with what's natural for you. So there was something about how she was using the bullet journal that wasn't working, and we were going through it kind of like with a fine-tooth comb. And I said, send me some pages that worked for you. Send me some sections that worked for you for a while, and then we'll look at those. And what she sent me were all of these Pinterest and like web pics of these like incredible work of freaking art, like over the top, beautiful bullet journals. And at first I was like, holy wow. And then I was like, hang on a minute.
Those aren't yours.
Like, are these your actual pages? She's like, no, but this is what I want. And I was like, well, if this is what you want, then that's an art project. And that's awesome. If that's your talent, if that's your strength. If what you want is something that supports you and something that has your back, a calendar you could rely on, a task management system that'll keep you moving forward, the important things, and make sure things don't, fall through the cracks. That very well is not the same work of art. Right. And it doesn't have to be. It's okay if it's not perfect, if it works for you. And that's one of the things that I think is, where we get ourselves in big trouble when we try to have that sort of, I can't do it because I can't do it the right way, or I can't do it consistently the right way. Again, me and my quotey fingers, you can't see. That's when we get ourselves into trouble, because it's an expectation of what we think should work for us. It may be what works for other people. Very often it's not what really works for other people. And then we think we have to fit ourselves into this mold, and anything less than that is failure. And that is where that black and white thinking, that all or nothing stuff, that perfectionism gets us in trouble, right? When it keeps you from doing anything, when it keeps you from giving yourself credit for what you're doing because you don't see it as having value or you don't see it as good enough, the impact of that over time is huge. It's a big thinking trap. It's a big limiting belief that is very sneaky, shows up in a lot of insidious ways. And it's something that we really have to learn to kind of catch and work to reframe and redirect, because it's incredibly unhealthy. If you aren't cleaning or doing something that matters to you, and I don't know why cleaning pops up, because that's it's a typical perfectionism thing for me. But when my house was, my kitchen floors were gross, and because I felt like I couldn't keep up with them, realizing that it was okay for me to do it in pieces. It was actually okay for me to use a sponge mop. A sponge mop is better than no cleaning, right? That shift was huge for me, but I really had to identify where the perfectionism was, where it was getting in my way, and then kind of chip away at the thinking piece before I could find the strategies that worked. It's so huge for us.
And I mean, I offer group action sessions. I do single days, 2-hour ones. I'm actually going to do a full weekend the end of February also. One of the reasons they work so well, and a lot of the people will tell you they're perfectionists, because they're getting out of their head. They're listening to me prompt them to share what they got done, or just give them a certain amount of time and work and come back. Only report your success. And I am very specific on how they report their success.
Yes.
It drives people crazy at first because, as people with ADHD, we want to share more. We want to give explanations. Or if we want to, we just do. Right. And like someone will say, I got 50% done, but I still, but I wanted to, let's focus on no judgment. Let's just look at it. And I even recommend, report your success, use a percentage or a fraction, because that's very logical, analytical. And instead of being caught up in their own head and being in the perfectionism mode, here I am, like almost forcing them in a sense not to be perfectionistic. Yes. And that's why something like that works so well. You get out of your head, you just simply take action, don't judge it, but process that you were successful. Like, even if it's like 1%, you are still successful. And a lot of people who've come to the sessions have told me they're perfectionists. They may not use those words, but when they explain their situations, like, okay, you're a perfectionist, or there's some perfectionistic tendencies going on. So just moving forward, having progress in itself can, I don't want to say prevent the perfectionism,
it can shift it.
Yeah, it can shift it. Yes.
Right. And it can start to undo some of those tendencies. But what Tara's talking about is, like, it's 100% universally true. If you can't give yourself credit, if you can't acknowledge your movement forward and give yourself, I always say points for effort, you get points for effort, even if it didn't turn out exactly as you'd hoped, right? You still need to give yourself credit for what you did accomplish. Otherwise, you're always going to be focused on the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You're never going to see what you're doing that's working. You're not going to learn from what you're doing that's working so that you can repeat it and tweak it to fit other scenarios. And you're destined to keep staying stuck in this, I can't do it unless the moon, the stars, and the planets align, and I get motivated and I have the right kind of external pressure and the circumstances are right, or, whatever. You're going to end up in this place, indefinitely. And that's a horrible place to be. And it's the way it makes you feel about yourself also is horrible, because you deserve to give yourself points for effort. That's one of the things that is a really hard thing to learn to do for a lot of us, isn't it? I mean, giving yourself credit, it sounds simple, but it's really not easy.
No, it isn't. We're used to looking how to improve, what's going wrong, what we still, I'm not saying never focus on those things. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But it can be so challenging to go the other way and focus on your success, your progress, and it helps with perfectionism and other things when you
Lots of
focus on those
things.
things. Yes.
Absolutely. Self-esteem, right? So many of us, and it's deeper than self-esteem. There's probably a word for it. A lot of languages have words or
Yeah.
phrases for things that we don't in the sort of American English or whatever. But it's the belief in yourself and trust in yourself. We lose that over time with ADHD when all we focus on is where we fall short.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that you should be walking around like thinking that your shit don't stink, excuse the expression, or that there's nothing wrong with you. If that's where you are, that's not any less problematic than being on the other side, right? By definition, we are humans. By definition, we have room for improvement. And that's a good thing. To know that, to acknowledge that, and to really accept that is a good thing. We've all got room for improvement, whether we think we do or not. If you think you don't, then you've got room for improvement there. But that's very different than focusing only on your shortcomings.
Yes.
Right? It's very different. So giving yourself credit for what you do accomplish, and it's okay to know that there's room for growth. It's okay to know that there's room for improvement or room to do better next time. But as long as you're not acknowledging the progress forward, as long as you're not acknowledging your successes, it's going to be really hard for you to figure out what works to help you move forward and to be able to sustain anything that's working for you over time.
Yeah, I mean, so that's going to be one of the big things for today is, if you're not somebody who's acknowledging, processing your successes, your progress, then find somebody else around you that does, whether it's a coach, whether it's someone like me. Well, I mean, I'm a coach too, but someone like me that does these group action sessions, whether it's a friend, a partner, or someone. But I think that's got to be the biggest thing is changing that mode and having somebody help you process and remember and discuss that you have successes and you do make progress.
Absolutely. So one of the things I encourage my clients to do when they're in this sort of, I call it focusing on the gap, or they're in this sort of all or nothing perfectionism thing, is we all know the benefits of gratitude, right? We all know the importance of gratitude and how it can shift your energy and shift your neurochemistry. But I encourage my clients to practice what I call inward gratitude. Find 3 things every day that you can give yourself credit for. Right. And they don't have to be big. They don't have to be earth shattering. In coaching, we always call them wins, right? Sometimes a win feels like it's too much. So sometimes just finding something you can give yourself credit for every single day, even if you do it with humor, even if you have to set the bar a little lower some days than others, right? I remember those days and I still have plenty of them. I always joke around with my clients when my kids were little and I was starting to do this for myself when I was really struggling. I tried to do a gratitude journal and it just felt like I was trying to do it at bedtime. And at that time of day, it just felt like it's just way more work than I was willing to put in at that time. So instead it ended up being 3 things that I could give myself credit for. And some days it was that I made it through the day, right? Nobody had to call 911 and everybody is fed, even if it was Easy Mac. Right. And that there's a little bit of sarcasm, there's a little bit of tongue in cheek, but it's a gentler way to start to look at myself and a gentler way to start to look at what did go well. And over time, that shifted to more of the outward, yay me. I did get started on that filing. It was hard for me. I put it off for, a while, but the thing that helped me was X, and I did get moving on it. Yes. That's very different than I didn't do it all. I should have done it weeks ago. I didn't do it the right way. My system's still a mess. So I just put stuff away and it doesn't really count because I'm, all of that sort of disclaimer talk. Yeah. Moving away from that is really important.
Yeah. Because I mean, it can be the simple things as I woke up, I took a shower, I put on pants. It doesn't have to be,
especially these days.
Yeah, I wanted to get up at 9 a.m., but I didn't get up till 1 p.m. Or, I wanted to put on dress pants and I only put on yoga pants or lounge pants. It doesn't have to be that. It's just simple. Let's just state 3 things that I did today and
that you can give yourself credit for.
Yes. Yeah.
And you get to decide that bar, not what anybody else would expect or what you think other people would expect. Right. And that's a big piece of it. And over time, that can really help shift some of that perfectionism that's keeping you from getting started on things, and keeping you from following through on things, and really create so much really pain over time. It really does. Anything else you want to add, Tara? Any last thoughts? Any?
No, I think those are just the big things, just being aware that it's not that you're a bad person. It's not, that you don't want to do things or whatever negative things, being lazy, that it could be perfectionism that is getting in the way. And if you just begin to realize that, there are ways to get out of it and move forward.
Absolutely. It all starts with awareness. That's such a great point. Well, join us if you haven't already. Join us in the ADHD Support Talk podcast. I'm saying it wrong. Sorry. The Facebook group, the ADHD Support Talk Facebook group, and share with us, like comment on the post for this session when we post it, or this podcast episode when we post it, and share it with us. How does your perfectionism show up? How are you identifying it? What are the things that are kind of signs to you that that's what's getting in the way? And then some helpful things that you've found to help you push past it when it strikes. I think that could be really helpful for you to solidify what works for you, but also help other people, with create some ideas or things that they can take and run with on their own. So please join us in the ADHD Support Talk Facebook group. And if you find these podcasts helpful, please go to iTunes and give us a 5-star review if you think we're worthy. The more 5-star reviews we have in iTunes, the more people can find the podcast, our podcast, as well as other podcasts that are similar to ours that can really help people start to move forward and make these changes in their lives.
Yeah, we also have a lot of people who are listening to these through YouTube. So that's the same thing. Like it on YouTube, share it, leave a positive comment. That will also help more people find these episodes, because that's what we're here to do. We want to help people move forward and be happier and all that.
And reach as many people as we can who are struggling with the same things and don't know what's getting on or in their way, or don't know, that other people just like them are struggling with the same things and are out here to support each other. So I think that's awesome. We appreciate you. We appreciate your attention. Thanks again for joining us on ADHD Support Talk, and we will catch you next time.
Thank you.